Hello software pros. This is the second part of the video, version control. In the first part of this video, we talked about the online services that you could use to create a repository and store your code online. In this video, we're going to focus on Git, which is the version control tool that you can use to pretty much manage your source code on your local machine. So there's another version control tool that's called SVN or Subversion, but I think it's a little bit outdated, or at least on every project I've worked on, we've either used Git or moved from SVN to Git. Before I show you where you could download Git on your machine, let's clear up some of the stuff that we did in the previous video. So we don't need this project. So this is the project that we downloaded from GitHub. So we can just delete it. In order to download Git, you can go to this website, github.com, Git guides, install Git. This guide will walk you through how to install Git on your local machine depending on your operating system. If you have a Windows machine, you could use the Windows installer. So you click to it, it's going to give you the Windows instruction. If you have a Mac, it already comes with Git installed. But if you don't have it, there's also ways to use an installer for Mac. Or there's another way using Homebrew. And if you have a Linux machine, this is the way to install it with a package installer called apt-get. So you can just run this command, sudo apt-get install git all. So since I have a Mac, I pretty much have it installed already. And the way you can check is you have this thing called terminal. It's on Mac and also on Linux machines. But on Windows, you have a command prompt, which is also similar, but the syntax is a little bit different. So here you can just do git version, and it tells me that I already have Git installed. So Git version 2.30.1. Right, so if you can install it, just let me know in the comments, and I might make another video how to install it on your operating system, or maybe I can find a way to help you. In a previous video, we created our first front-end application, and we called it UI, and we stored it here. So if I open it, this is UI. If I open it, and then here it is. So this is our web page that we created by using HTML, CSS, and JavaScript and all that. Let me close it for now. One thing you should not do is store your project on the desktop. So what you can do is put it in somewhere on your machine where you can easily access it. I can put it in my document, create a folder there called projects. Right, so you know that I'm going to have multiple projects. And inside the projects folder, I can put my UI project. So if I want to open it, I will go to Documents, Projects. Here I can have multiple projects. So UI is one of them. And also, if you remember, on the part 1 of this video, we created an online repository and we called it Welcome UI. I'm just going to make sure that I give the same name to my project on my local machine. So Welcome UI. Okay. So we have Git installed. We have our project that's ready to be pushed to a remote repository. When I open the terminal, I can figure out exactly where I'm at on my machine by doing pwd enter. So it tells me that I'm in the users SW pros folder, right? So you also have to know how your folders or files are structured on your machine. So I know I can press ls enter and it will tell me every file or folder that's in that directory. So this is my current directory and I listed all the documents there or all the folders there. So now I can go to documents, which is similar to my documents on Windows machine. So change directory cd and then I enter documents, enter. So now it took me to the documents folder. So if I do pwd again, it will tell me this is where I'm in the documents folder. And if I want to see everything inside that document, I will do the same thing, ls. Ooh, so would like access? Okay, I can give you access. So there's only one folder called projects in that folder. So I can do cd again, change directory and go to projects, enter. And right now, if I do ls, I'm inside the projects folder. And in there, there's a folder called Welcome UI. I also want to go into our UI project. So I'm going to do cd we, and you can just press the tab key on your keyboard. It will autocomplete. So, and then press enter. So right now we're inside the UI project. So to verify, I can do ls, which is list, and I can see that inside is index.html. So we just navigated through our file system, which is the same as using this really. So it's the same as going to the Finder, going to my documents, opening projects, and going into Welcome UI. So this is the same thing that we did from the command line. To initialize our Git project, so right now we have our UI project that's stored locally, right? It's not a Git project yet. So now we're just going to convert it to a Git project by doing git init and enter. So this will use master as the name of my default branch. They are suggesting that you can use another branch name, but I'm just going to leave it like this. It's going to be master, my default branch name. Right now, we've initialized our Git repository on our local machine, right? So our local UI project that we built previously is now a Git project. We also have an online service, online repository that we created in the previous video. So what do we need to do now? We need to push our local changes to the remote repository. If I do git remote -v, then it doesn't know our remote repository yet. So we need to connect those two repositories. Okay. And to connect those two repositories, first of all, you have to find out what is the address of the remote repository, or the URL is what we call. So if I come to our GitHub project, right? So let's go, this is our repositories, our repository. Okay, so you can see that there is a URL for our repository right here. You can just copy it. Copy. Okay, so this is the URL of the repository. So if you come back here, you can do git remote add origin, okay, and paste this URL. So right now we connected our local repository to the remote repository, and we can verify by doing git remote v again and pressing enter. So you can see here is our remote repository ready to accept new changes. We created a remote repository. We have a project on our machine. So the first thing, we initialize the repository on our local machine. So that means the project that was stored on our computer, we made it a Git repository. So this is after we've installed Git on our machine. So you make your project a Git repository. Now you connect the local repository with the remote repository by using the command git remote add origin, and you paste the URL of the remote repository. So you paste the address of the remote repository. And how do you get it? You get it by going to your GitHub account, by going to your repository, and the address is right there for you to just copy. And once you do git remote add origin, you paste that URL, you can just verify that you connected your local repository with your remote repository by running the command git remote -v, and that will tell you that your repository is ready to accept changes. All right. So now that you've done that, maybe I need to make this full screen for you guys. Okay. So if you want to know the status of the changes in your local repository, you can just do git status. So right now, Git status says you are on the master branch. Okay, so we made the master branch our default branch. There's nothing committed. So you can see there's a file here that is not tracked yet by the repository. So, and it actually gives you a hint. So we need to add this file. So again, if I go to the online repository, here's the online repository, welcome UI. So right now there's nothing in this repository. So if I refresh the page, it only gives you instructions on what to do to push new changes, but there's nothing in this. You can see I refresh the page, there's nothing in there, but soon there's going to be a file in there that came from our local repository. So if I go back to that file is indexed in .html, so you can add this file by using git add, and you just put the name of the file, index.html. So if you press enter, you just added this file to the repository locally. So if you do git status again, you can see the file is already in green. So the file has been added to the repository. So whenever you add something to the repository, you need to give a message, a commit message. So you need to commit your changes and put a message to tell people what happened at this point. So you run the command git commit m. So the message is just adding our welcome UI project. So now I'm committing my changes, so telling everyone that, okay, I'm ready with these changes, I'm done with these changes, and just putting a message for these changes. So I just committed that file. So if I do git status again, there's nothing to commit. So I've already made all my changes. I committed my changes. But if we go here and refresh the page, you can see that there's still no file here. But the last thing we need to do is push our changes from the local repository to the remote repository. So that's the command that we're going to enter. So git push -u origin, and our remote branch, the default remote branch is called master. So I'm just going to put master and enter. Uh-oh. I need to put the username for our GitHub account. Okay, so before I can push, so the name is Software Pro Africa. And then I need to enter the password if I can remember it. Okay, enter. And oh, wait a minute. Username, password. Okay, so they're recommending that you use the access token instead of a password, but I think my issue is I did not put a correct password, so I'm going to try putting the password again. So I'm going to rerun the same command. Okay, so username, software, for Africa. Okay, password. Enter. This is software development. That's how it is. So it's not letting me. Please. So you need to read the error message. Username, password. Support for password was removed. Use a personal access token instead. Okay, I'm back. So I've had unfortunate events. My camera reached the limit for recording, so it stopped. And then right after that, my battery died, and I was stuck on this issue with my password not working. So I looked up the issue a little bit, and after following the error message, it said that the support for password authentication was removed, and we now use personal access token. So I took the chance to look up quickly how to create those personal access token. So it's really easy. So let's create one. Let me just make a copy of this tab and paste it here. So if you go here to your account settings and you go all the way down to developer settings, there's personal access token, and you can generate a new token. So pretty much this is to protect you from hackers, and since using your password is not really secure, they want you to use this personal access tokens instead of password, and you can totally configure them for how many days you want, 30 days, 7 days, and I'm just gonna do 7 days. So what's the scope? So I'm going to take this one. So there's public repository here. Okay, so I'm just going to take repo. So it says full control of private repositories, and it also says public repositories. But ideally, you would want to limit the scope as much as possible. So I'm just going to do this for now. So what is it for? Auth, and I'm going to generate a token. So this token, you shouldn't share it with anyone. I'm just doing this for the video, but I'm going to delete it afterwards. So you can copy the token. And remember, I was trying to push my code to the remote repository, so it's already in my local repository. So the way to push it was git push u origin master, and you rerun that same command. And the username is again Software Pro Africa. And now my password, I'm just going to paste the token and hit enter. And right now I've pushed my code to the remote repository. And we can verify that if I come here and I just refresh this page, bam, you see I have a file index.html. So right now you can see we have our code already in the remote repository. So anyone now can download this code or pull this code, modify it, push it back. Anyone, of course, I give access to. So this is it. You can see how much fun this is. And I hope you really learned a lot with this couple of videos. This is going to help you a lot going forward on all your projects. And I have another interesting video coming up, so stay tuned. All right, thanks for your time.